Hey there, welcome to episode 194, Fresh Air at 5. In this episode, it's a really short episode because there was so much going on this week, and I only got out walking, I think, 2 days, and missed listening to other days. So it's a shorter episode, but it's called Bluesky Starts. So I joined Bluesky and start posting my dailies on Bluesky. It was a mind bender to figure out how to do what I did on Twitter every day and set it up for Bluesky because video links are shorter. But without further ado, here's some content I listened to and my reflections. Episode 194, Fresh Air at 5.
I'm Chris Dutchko, co-host of the 9th Grade Experience podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwee First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. Hey PLN, it's Monday, November 26, 2024. Yes, I was thinking about the date. I'm out for Fresh Air 5 this morning. It's 4 degrees Celsius. The wind is blowing, and it's a bit on the snappy side. Clear, thankfully, so it's not raining, but it's on the verge of it. Yes, had a good weekend. I relaxed, put my feet up, did some things around the house. It wasn't an unbusy weekend, but it wasn't working. I didn't do any school. Did very little computer things, which was really great. Connected with my family and had a good weekend. All right, this morning I listened to an interview between myself and Noah Waspy of the Old School, New School podcast. And Noah and I are on the executive board for my PETA, our Teachers Association here in British Columbia. And we spent time organizing and working on conferences and planning. And he's like, hey, Brian, can you be on my podcast? And I said, sure. And so we got together in the summer and recorded this interview that you can listen to on Old School, New School. And it came out, I think, yesterday. Thank you, Noah, for putting it out and reminding us of the truths that we talked about relationships and learning. In this episode, I go over my struggle that I had with English in high school and how I am today a successful teacher. And, you know, that success it doesn't mean I'm a rock star teacher, but I have learned to work through some struggles that I had earlier and am here now. And I talked about with Noah about the value of relationships, about that connection that teachers have with students, and that can, be of use to students to help them learn and understand the material differently. And yes, now, Noah, it was fantastic to hear our conversation. There are so many things we talked about, and I appreciate you publishing this. Take a listen to Old School, New School, the interview, how a guy that struggled with English is now a successful teacher. Talk to you. Thank you. Bye. The last thing for November 26, 2024. All right, wrapping up Fresh Air at 5. Walk this morning. It's been brisk. Very good to get out, get some fresh air, and clear my mind. All right, I listened to X Factor Level Up Your Mental Game with Brian Martin as he brings us episode number 9. Remember that Brian Martin is the host of Teaching Champions, a successful podcast, and now he stepped into this new mental coaching space, and he's bringing us today what do you have in common with elite athletes, and looking at characteristics of elite athlete, not mental athletes, elite athletes, and how they work through things. So elite athletes, and I can't remember the author who wrote this mental psychologist, sports psychologist that wrote this, but you can listen to the episode and find out. He talked about failure and how we don't shirk away from failure, but it's a necessary part of learning. Talked about obstacles and how obstacles are not something to be feared, but to be approached and figured out. Looking at the amount of effort that goes into the work that we do, effort and maximum effort is important, and whether we're being successful or whether we're struggling, and just putting in the effort to be better. He talked about seeking feedback, wanting to know the truth as opposed to, I don't want to know. I'd just rather not know. And then lastly, about looking at and watching the success of others and learning from the successes of others. Brian, this is a fantastic list. Fantastic list. It might even be infographic worthy to put on a poster and put in a classroom. I appreciate your thoughts, and I appreciate the reflective process that you've gone through to be where you are now. I thank you for that. Thanks for sharing that journey on Teaching Champions, your most recent episode of that. And yes. All right, so what do you have in common with elite athletes? I've got a few things, I think. So am I an elite athlete? No, but I've got some characteristics of an elite athlete. All right, have a good day. Bye. Hey PLN, it is Wednesday, November 27, 2024, and it's about probably 5 degrees Celsius out. Humidity's almost on the verge of raining, but it's not, so I'm thankful for that. And I've gotten out this morning to go for my walk. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was cozy and warm, but now I'm out walking, and I'm going to go back and have a cup of coffee, and it's going to be fantastic. All right, this morning as I'm walking, I listened to episode 160 of Check This Out podcast with Ryan O'Donnell and Brian Briggs, as the boys from Sacramento and California area. They bring us, and Rockland, they bring us their next episode 160. Congratulations, dude! You got to an even 10. That's fantastic. As I'm walking, I listen. You guys are talking about Bluesky. I have to now go home and make a Bluesky account. And hopefully my tag on Twitter is still available. My person on Twitter, me at Brian Carr on Twitter, is still available, so I can do the transition, and follow. Be a follower. I've heard of Bluesky vaguely, and so thank you for the overview of what's going on, what you guys are up to, why you're up to this. And so, yes, I'm gonna go get a Bluesky account. So that's my homework from this episode. You guys talked about some other things like artificial intelligence and creativity, and how we need to get our teachers using it so that they can understand what's going on before we start talking about our students. So it's about personal use of the technology ourselves to enhance it in our classroom. You talked about Google Slides and the templates, and I'm not in the Google world much anymore, just personally, and that's hardly at all. Though I still do my presentations in Google Slides, so that I can keep them out of my district. Just a thing for me. And you guys are also talking about St. Demas High School football rules from the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, I think it was. And so that's the name of your episode. All right, guys, it was great to hear from you, and brought me back to Spring Q, the time we hung out together this past March. All right, everybody, have a great day. Listen, check this out, episode 160. Hey, PLN, it's November 28, 2024, and this episode 194 of Fresh Air at 5 is going to be called Blue Sky Starts. So here we are. I'm at the beginning of a new social media journey, as many of us are, because the social media platform Bluesky is kind of a child of Twitter that was developed at Twitter back a few years ago and then started up and is now a real thing. And because of things going on Twitter with the algorithm and politics and other things like that, we're changing and moving over there. All right, so I'm moving over there. I'm moving my stuff over there, moving my handle over there. So I'm still at Brian Carr on Bluesky. So I will be putting my dailies on Bluesky. 60 seconds long, and that's why this is so short. Okay, bye. A 60-second segment of audio is pretty short when I've been used to 2 minutes and 20 seconds over on Twitter. So I'm going to be chunking my audio into 60-second chunks. Possibly if I do record longer than 60 seconds, I will break it up and I'll call it number 1 of 2 and 2 of 2 moving forward. Are you on Bluesky? Go get on Bluesky. Go see if your Twitter handle can be used on Bluesky. And there are many, many, many users on Bluesky, millions and millions of people. And the Sky community is growing, and it's a fresh start for us to reboot our social media and our educational connections in a new, fresh space. Decentralized social media as opposed to the controlled social media that Twitter is becoming. All right, there we go. Without further ado, I'm moving on. One more thing for November 28, 2024. It's U.S. Thanksgiving. Happy U.S. Thanksgiving to you all. This morning, I'm listening to Tech Tools for Teachers, episode 198, as Shannon Martin and Fuzz Martin bring us Musical Canvas and Gen Type. Two very kind of outside of the regular creative tools that you could use in your classroom or outside of your classroom. And if you need a brain break as a teacher, to go and use Musical Canvas to do some digital art in their canvas. And then it says generate music, and it'll generate a music score or piece for you about the way you drew your picture. And then there's Gen Type, which is a typography generator in Google. Both of these are Google Labs experiments, arts and culture, and it'll make a font in kind of the style that you have chosen. Kind of like Adobe Express generate text. This is kind of the same thing. Thanks, guys. Okay, bye. One more thing for November 29, 2024. It's actually 28. I listened to X Factor, Level Up Your Mental Game with Brian Martin, episode 10. He talks about turning your setbacks into strengths. All right, he talked about an author and speaker, Jocko Willink, who is a former Navy SEAL and motivational speaker, and he talks about how responding with the word good to situations that are setbacks or bad is a way of changing your perspective on the way you look at things. Something bad happens, you say good, and now what can I learn from that? And you get injured, and you say good. Now I can focus on the areas of strength or areas of weakness that I had before I was injured and work on those as I recover. All right, take a listen for yourself. Brian does a much better job of it. And in 60 seconds, this is harder to do than ever. So good, I'm learning. Almost the last thing for November 28, 2024. Happy U.S. Thanksgiving, Suzanne Daly, and Teach Happier Community as you celebrate U.S. Thanksgiving today. And on episode 13 of season 5, Suzanne Daly brings us Positivity Pauses as a way of reflecting on things that are going on in our lives. Author John Dewey, as she mentions, says that we don't learn from experiences, we learn from reflecting on our experiences, and it's a reflective process that we learn things. So, positivity pauses are short sentence starters, and the first one she shares with us out of 12 is, what are you grateful for today? And it's a way of taking a pause in our lives and thinking about positive things that are going on and bringing those to the fore. All right, there's another 11 of them there. Go take a listen to the episode yourself to catch them. All right, thanks so much. Have a fabulous day. Bye. The last thing for November 28, 2024. reflecting on Bluesky starts and how I started my walk today by talking about a change of social media platform from Twix to Bluesky and how I am going to try to post on my dailies on Bluesky. All right, thinking about as I'm walking and the abruptness of a 60-second video chunk that I have now limited to in Bluesky, as opposed to 2 minutes and 20 seconds in Twix, I have to rethink about how I share my reflections on my podcast learning in a meaningful manner with maybe segments and call them 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, and put those at the top of each one, and then have 3 separate posts in Bluesky for that? Or do I even allow Twitter to chop them up right now into 1-minute chunks? Still learning. So what am I learning? It's good. It's good that I'm learning because it allows me to think about how I share my content. All right, have a fabulous day. Okay, bye.
I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brian Carr, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.